And we are live. Good afternoon, Crystal. How are you?
I am good. And yourself?
I am great.
That's so wonderful. How was your weekend?
It's good. My cousin convinced me to buy not a Fitbit, a smartwatch. So I am now smartwatch earned, loaded,
You loaded, huh?
loaded, smartwatch carrying. I'm carrying.
So are you tracking all of your
Oh, you
sleeping?
have
I
you
do.
got bling. Oh
I got
wow.
bling on mine. A little
No, I
bling
just
on it.
have the regular one there.
Okay, yeah, I got a little. Well, you can fancy it up, but you might not want the bling. I have the bling on mine, but
Bling.
it track. I love it. I mean, it tells me how I sleep. It
Mm.
tells me if I've gotten a good sleep, and then
Oh,
it tells me it actually tracks everything. It tracks all your vitals,
yes,
and
yes.
if you're moving.
I just wanted to get it because it's supposed to vibrate when I get a phone call, and that way I don't miss phone calls or text messages. So
Okay.
hopefully I can turn the vibration up. So if you see me during one of our conversations going shaking and stuff, then you'll know that it's the
What? Wait a minute. You got a Fitbit to tell you got a phone call.
yes.
Okay. Not
Because I
not.
put my phone in the breast pocket of my suit jacket often, and I
Okay.
can't feel it. And my friends tell me that I never answer text messages. They said you do answer text messages, but you don't until you know an hour or two later. And I thought, well, that's not cool. And they're getting to be a wee bit irritated about it. So I thought,
Oh, okay.
well, why don't I just go get a smartwatch that will vibrate on my arm, and I'll be able to hear people, or I'll be
Okay.
able to respond. So that's
You're
my
ready to. So that
that's
was
my
your
deal.
motivation.
Yeah. So
Okay.
hopefully, when I get a text message or when I get a call, it'll it'll vibrate. And my cousin said I can actually turn up the vibration on the watch. So if you see me, twilting, that's probably because I got a
Yeah,
call.
yeah, it will vibrate for calls. It will actually mines will actually even there's some of the face types that will give you a notification of meetings coming up. They have an agenda face a clock face as well.
Oh, that's cool. I don't know about that. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, they actually you have to go into the app store and pull in certain apps, and it will be able to do that in addition to notifying you. You can actually talk on it. I mean, if you
Yeah, I tried to do that this morning, but I didn't quite. Well, I realized that my phone was at the house and not at the gym where I was,
yeah, that's a little
where
bit
the watch was.
challenging.
That was a bit challenging, but yeah, we're gonna give it a shot.
Okay, good for
Just see
you.
how it goes. It's kicking and screaming into the 21st century.
It'll also tell you if you're not moving enough and you need to get some physical exercise.
Little bastard, it does.
It does.
It says something like "move" or something like
Yeah,
that.
it
I'm
does
like,
like that.
who do you think you are?
It's time to move and time
Yeah.
to drink water.
Something. I'm thinking that is the most. You have got to be kidding. These
Yeah.
electronics are getting a little bit out of hand. I had to spend 5 minutes with my Alexa telling her to shut up, calm down, just leave me alone. He was not getting
Now
it.
I'm a little uncomfortable with Alexa, and mainly because I was talking to my sister in another room, and she
Mm,
had her Alexa on. I had my Alexa on in the other room. I came and we were I was in another room away from my Alexa, and I was talking to her about something. And when I came back into my room, the Alexa said, "So do you want me to pull up whatever?" And I went, "Oh no, we can't have this kind of conversation going on." So I unplugged my Alexa, and she had never got plugged back up. That was like 3 years ago. Can't have that kind of intrusion while I'm having a conversation in a whole nother room, and then
yeah,
you go intervene. You're eavesdropping in another room.
yeah. That's
No, no,
that's
no
pretty
Alexa for
sad
me.
there. Yeah, yeah. That's dangerous.
Yeah, that was a little bit that's too much AI for me.
You disappeared on me again.
Oh, I'm right here.
My screen says that my screen just keeps disappearing. That's really odd.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm right here.
Okay. All righty. Well, okay. Note to self, watch out for the Alexa. I suppose if I had anyone to talk to, I would have to worry about that, but I don't really. So
Okay, all right. So
we don't have to go there.
You don't have to go there.
We don't have
So
to
today
go
we're gonna have a good conversation on the 4 group. Whoever thought that there were different groups of retirees?
Mhm. I know. And I got to say, thank you so much for providing the article. This was a wonderful read. And so I'm excited to talk with you about it.
Okay, cool.
Let's do this. How about if I read your bio first?
All right.
Oh, I started vibrating. Oh, they're letting me know I'm supposed to be on the patio now.
Okay.
So, according to my spotlight.
And there you are.
Doing it upright. But, so I'll read your bio and then we can get into the conversation. How's that?
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. So everyone, please help me welcome my friend and colleague, Crystal Mitchell, to our broadcast. She is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, a co-director of Recycling Black Dollars. She's the co-host of The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, a weekly online radio show. She's also an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Hello, Crystal Mitchell. How are you, ma'am?
I am good. Another week. We are already into the mid part of the year. Amazing. We just started the year, but we're already in May, already Labor Day. Wow. Memorial Day is a week away and graduations are underway. And wow, we're on a high-speed train to I don't know where we're going, but we're on a high-speed train.
You are right there, sister. I'm right there with you. That is blowing me away that it is already May. Heck, we're almost done with May. It's the 22nd. We're looking at June.
And we're looking at June. It's like, what is the hurry? What's the hurry?
When did it happen so fast?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a big year. We had the end of the pandemic, sort of, last year.
Right.
We had we've got the budget thing going on, and that's keeping people on edge. I think that's sort of speeding things up in a way. We had the banking crisis. That's sort of like sped things up a wee bit, And then we have, we're
getting ready to go into a political, presidential. Grab your hair color. If you got hair, grab your hair color because you're going to be dyeing your hair every day. For those of you with no hair, thank God you don't have any because you won't have to be dyeing your hair every day. This is going to be wild. It's going to be like a magic mountain ride.
I think so. And I keep hearing that Tim Scott is throwing his hat in the mix. I mean, we went from nobody could challenge Mr. Trump to now he's got 5 or 6 challengers there, which is
and I don't know. Some more delusional than others. I heard this morning from Mr. Scott's mouth that America was not a racist country. So I thought, wow, really? Okay, that's interesting. I saw. It's just every day. It's a new kind of exciting, interesting day.
Well, when you get right down to it, just between you, me, and the fence post, you cannot get elected if you happen to be a person of color, you cannot get elected if America is a racist country. It's not, the two don't add up. So we know the message right now. I mean, we already know 80% of that man's platform already.
Yeah, exactly. Now, here's an interesting thing, and this is going to be interesting. Has there ever been a president in the United States that did not have a wife, a mate? Has there ever not been a first lady?
Well, Kinda. We have Kamala Harris. She doesn't have a wife, and she's close to the presidency.
But she got a first husband.
She has a first husband. Yes.
There is no first husband or first wife with a Tim Scott.
No, except in the movies, there was one.
Yeah,
But
that one with
yeah,
the one that Harrison Ford played, and he was with Anne. What was her name? He was a single president, but I don't think in reality, real reality,
I think you're right.
I don't think you would be electing a president that did not have a mate.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the framework.
Yeah.
That's actually part of an American. That's part of an American dream, is that marriage is part of that process.
Yeah. Well, we got to have somebody to bring some sense up in that house. If Lord knows the president's not going to be able to do it, maybe his wife would be able to move him along the right way.
Right. So that means he's going to have to get married between now and the election day.
Oh, I'm sure there will be people that would be on top of that. I'm sure.
Well, he's 55 years old and he's still looking for Mrs. Right. So I don't know.
Come on now. Come on now. There's a lot of room on the ruler there. He's got a lot of room to go. Don't be like that. He doesn't even have gray hair.
I know, but so here's my thing as a woman, and we're gonna jump into it. Here's my thing as a woman. I think it's harder for a woman to get married than I think it is for a man to get married, because you guys are the ones that ask the question.
Well,
and if you make the proposal,
yeah,
enticing enough,
yeah,
and right, and there is a woman that will say yes. Now, whether it's right or wrong, or it's good or bad, if you asked, and you have to tell me, Jevon, you asked that question,
yeah,
59% of the time you'd get a yes. If you asked, yeah, and maybe 8, and I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna say 95% of the time you as a male would probably get a yes if you chose to ask that question.
Well, that sounds right, but there's a couple of things that you said before then that are attention-getting.
What's that?
And should be of note. One was, if you make the offer enticing enough. That's one right there, which can be a problem for many of us. Number two, if you ask the right woman, that's an issue as well. I think you're right, though. I think if you line those up, you have a very good shot. However, many of us look at women as wonderful, if not superior, at least equal creatures. And so the time has come for women to start asking men if they want to get married or not. Because, you can't have it both ways. You can't be equal and not pay the taxes. Right? I mean, you can't be free and not have consequences.
I personally, and maybe I'm a little traditionalist, I think that there is roles, and I think, and not that I just think there's roles, and I think that the way I was raised, that men are in a proverbial head of household kind of platform, that when women kind of take that move to be the real super aggressor, that it changes the dynamics. That's what I think.
Oh,
and that's been my experience, that when I've been too aggressive, it changes the dynamics of who's the hunter and who's not.
I think you may be right. And just speaking as a man who is out here doing my thing and chasing what have you,
being the hunter.
I like easy prey. So that's one right there. I mean,
well, that's a batting of the eye. And
there's something.
To give you the do like this, and so that you'll know that there's interest. I got that.
Yeah,
the
I like easy
flirtation
prey.
piece.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And then again, I would say as well that many, since I did grow up in a household with a father and a
Yeah.
mom, I was very fortunate to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do understand the concept of the neck that turns the head. So coming from that point of view, I'm not so sure that head of the household, especially now, and even if we go back to biblical times, especially anytime, anywhere in the country, I'm not so sure that that whole head as head of the household is anything more than um, a nice a nice gesture that
Yeah,
the
that's
neck
true.
allows the
That
man
they're
to
not, but she gives the impression that
be
they're the
impressed.
head of the household. They're just the neck
Yeah.
that turns the head.
And I think that along with that, I have a couple of sisters, and I think that um, I don't want to say this in a bad way at all, at all. I don't
Okay.
want to, but I think that many of the women I know like the idea of having someone in front of them so that they can control the scenes from behind, and I don't think their husbands mind. I don't think that's big a deal. Now, when it comes to women that are in same-sex marriages, right? Um, that I think is an interesting situation because then I see, in my experience, women throwing each other in front when it's convenient.
It's interchangeable. The
It's
role is interchangeable. Well, I guess that's the benefit. But I think even in those, I think there's still a dominant. I think there's a dominant figure that is turning the head. Even in,
the
I just
dominant
think
figure that's turning the head.
yeah, I think there's still a dominant that figure that's turning the head. I think the one who's bringing in the most money is the one that is the dominant figure.
No, you got no,
Nope,
no,
you don't think so?
no.
Okay, all
That's
right.
not the way that works. Mm-mm, no,
Okay,
no.
okay.
The one that's bringing in the money is just lucky to be there. That's it. There's- and even if they're not lucky to be, if they're not just lucky to be there, they're if they happen to be men, they really are pretty much lucky to be there. I'll
Be
just put
there.
it out there. If you're a
That,
man in the household and you think you're running stuff, A, you have to have an extremely smart wife, or B, you ain't got nothing going on in your house. Ain't
you
no
ain't got nothing going. There's a commercial that I saw the other day that actually kind of backs that up. It's the family sitting around the household and they're talking about the internet connection, right? And the internet connection is kind of slow, so they're having a family meeting. It's the father, the mother, and three children. So the dad's like, okay, so internet is slow. And so we're going to have to make some decisions. Somebody's going to have to move out because there's too many people on the internet in this
oh
household.
wow.
So they're having this conversation. So he goes, so mom makes the most money. She gets to stay. The son says, Dad, I laugh at your jokes. He goes, okay. And the daughter says, I'm only 6. So I can't go anywhere. So dad says, okay, I guess that's me.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
I thought that was hilarious. He said, I'm only 6, Dad. I mean, okay, I guess that's me. I guess I got to be the one to go. And then they come in with whatever T-Mobile or somebody's internet or fiber optics or whatever. But mom's like, yeah, I got the job.
I got the job.
I
Yeah.
got the
There's
highest
only
salary. So
people.
I just got
I'm not leaving. Well, we should probably
get going.
get going. But I think that's a topic that um, we need to talk about. That is, this whole dominance thing and uh, what dominance really means in the family unit today, because it's dramatically different than it used to be, and
Mhm.
um, and people you know, it's just the way, without calling sides and
Genders.
mores into
And
picture.
actually, I think that would have a big bearing on, that's interesting, even on a retirement, right? Because it's whoever has, let's say, because in traditional families, the husband, years ago, the husband would have had the bigger salary, right? And so the wife would have had, it may have been the stay-at-home mom, right? And so when he retired, he would be taking care of her and him, and she would have had whatever her part. But that may not be the case today, right?
Well, from my limited knowledge, and I don't want to speak about things that I don't know very much about, but I do understand that even today, over 50% of marriages end in divorce. And so, and that doesn't always happen at the beginning of the relationship when people are in their early 20s. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it can happen much later, which is a tough concern, I think. You know, I would never, ever, 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 I'm going to say it again, ever, ever suggest that people make a decision in their marriage depending upon if they were going to break up. I would never suggest that, right?
Right.
I always believe you get married forever, come hell or high water, you're in it. And you just need
Mm-hmm.
to figure it out and deal. However, there is some situations where things don't work out right. So when you're looking at that kind of situation, I would say, and maybe I should just back that up. Maybe I should back that up because I'm coming at this from a very paternal point of view. And I think this is why it's so important for women and people of color
Mm-hmm.
to become financial advisors. Because just the way that I'm thinking about answering this question is incredibly paternalistic and it's not fair, it's inappropriate. And I don't want to be that person. So as I'm catching myself, I'll give you
Mm-hmm.
point A and point B, right? So
Mm-hmm.
point A was we had a system that was designed for men to make money and women to stay home. And therefore, we would trap women in that familial unit, right? I mean, you could not get out. You could, if you were a woman, you couldn't get out of that. So
Right.
therefore, upon that man's shoulders rested a lot of responsibility for not only retirement, if they should happen to die early, the insurance and all that kind of stuff. They had to lay all of that out. It wasn't a discussion necessarily. It was more
Mm.
of a here, let's do this, and oh, I can kind of take part in that. Right?
Mm.
So, in from the point of view of a financial advisor, I would say, you know, as a woman, you really have to stand up for yourself. You really have to advocate for yourself in that type of an arrangement. Because if you don't, then if something should happen to your spouse, you don't know where the papers are. You don't know how to get things taken care of. You don't know, and you have to, as I experienced, you have to talk to some guy like me on the phone with some massive company who really
Mm-hmm.
doesn't care that much about you
Mm-hmm.
in a personal sense, maybe in a client customer sense.
Mm-hmm.
You can have some empathy, but we don't know who you are, right? So that's a tough time to figure out what a stock and a bond is. It's a tough time to figure out where you're supposed to go to help. I hope that wasn't too.
No, but I actually agree with you. This weekend, one of my really good friends from my tennis club passed away, and he and his wife had been married for well over 40 something years. Um, and I believe she was a stay home mom, right? But there was something the son said that that there was at a point in their father's illness they knew that he didn't have much longer to go. So they had a conversation. They had a family conversation, and the father laid out how he wanted his wife to be taken care of, and what the son needed to do, and laid out all of where everything was and how from this forward on day forward on that need to be how it needs to be taken care of. And so of course the son was to take care of his mother, but making sure the mother knew exactly what had been put in place on behalf to take care of her after he was gone. But that's not always the case. A lot of times after that happens, the spouse is completely bewildered on what is supposed to happen. And I think that really part of that loss is already, a loss, right? You've already watched your mate dissipate in front of your eyes. But then it's afterwards like, okay, now what's supposed to happen to me? Now, thank God they have a very responsible son, and they have a very responsible daughter, and they have a very close family. So it's no question for how she's going to be taken care of. But that's not always the case. Sometimes
It's
she's by
certainly not.
herself. In fact,
Yeah.
that's probably most of the time that's
Yeah.
not the case.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I'm not one of them, but there are, and that's in the case of a death. But I was thinking of just in the case of a divorce.
Yeah.
There are financial advisors out there who specialize in divorce cases.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I said that big thing in the beginning, and I hope I didn't take up too much time, was that I run into lots of women, and it seems to be happening the older I get in my life. Perhaps maybe I'm a little bit more attuned, but I'm running into more and more women who say things to me like, I've never had a job. Excuse me? Yeah. I've never had to pay a bill. You what? You have children. How can you not have had to? Well, my father took care of me until I left the house, and then my husband paid all the bills. And since we got divorced, now it's on me. And now I have to figure all of this out. And for me, as a middle income male person, I'm like, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard of, right?
But that's so true.
It is so true. And my lack of sensitivity towards that issue of, looking at the world from that point of view is huge, which is why we really need people who have some sensitivity to those kinds of issues. So I'm just saying that when you meet your financial advisor, you're in the market for your financial advisor, ask enough questions so that you can understand that they know where you're coming from, and that they know where you're coming from in a nice way.
Yeah.
they're not you, just because they know where you're coming from, quote unquote, doesn't mean that they're going to be good for you. Right. So
right. Exactly. Making sure that they understand who you are, your current situation, your past situation, so that they're making the right decisions for you, and understanding what your plight has been. Right. Because you can't,
has been and can be. I mean, just because it was this doesn't mean that it has to be anything like that going forward. Very good point. Very good point. I would also say, to your point about husbands taking care of business, and that's not always the case, because they're not always the head of the household. Maybe the wife is the head of the household, or if you have two husbands. I ran into a couple this weekend, two men that were in a relationship, and it was very difficult to figure out which one of those was, running the show. And then I kind of figured out that they're both making way much more money than I am. So that's not a deal. But what was interesting, though, and I think I almost lost it. Oh, I wanted to tell you about a gentleman I knew that was about to marry someone. He had already made arrangements for her to be the beneficiary on his life insurance policy. Now that's kind of, you would think, why would he tell me? I mean, I was a good friend, but why would he tell me that he had, I want to call it some large sum of money? Let's say it was, for us back in the day, let's say it was $100,000. Let's just say that's what it was. So he made a point of telling me that he had $100,000 life insurance policy on himself for his wife to get when he passed away. And I thought to myself, A, you're not even married, but B, this is none of my business, right? But he made a point of telling me, And I think I've thought about that from time to time. And I think, often I've said on the show that love looks differently now than it used to. And I
Mhm.
think that's one of the points of it. This gentleman didn't make very much money at all.
Mhm.
He worked really hard, blue
Mhm.
collar job that didn't pay, a blue collar job that didn't pay. So,
Okay.
okay, the difference.
Yeah.
And just, had spent some time, I believe, in the armed forces and done some things in the country. But anyway, was not knocking it down with his current place. But his desire and his love for his wife was so great and so grand that the little bit of money that he could save up, he put into that life insurance policy for her.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, admittedly, she made more money. She had more sense in some ways. Um, Lovely, lovely person. Uh, he was lucky to be there. Wonderful woman. But that was the kind of stand-up guy that he was. This is what I can do. So
Mhm.
that's what he did. And he felt so good about it that he had to tell me about it. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, and mainly because he probably felt, wow, I haven't been able to, because I'm not in that position in my regular world, my regular
Mhm,
life. My
mhm,
I don't make the kind of money she makes, but I do want, I do love her, and I do want
mhm,
to make sure she's provided for. So may not be able to do that in the here life, but I definitely want to be able to say, you know, in the afterlife that I can do that. And if he and I think also being that you are who you are as an advisor and a professional, if there were some, I assume this was not his first marriage. There may have been some of second, if this was his
First
or
marriage.
first
First
marriage.
marriage. Mhm,
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So, because sometimes they tell people of professions so that if there's any questions later on, that they
mm,
did make a mention to someone that was a professional, that this was not coercion or any of that
right,
stuff. This was
right,
something that out of his heart that
right,
he was doing. He
right,
wasn't coerced to do that. This is my
right.
decision.
Good
And
point.
I think with you being who you are, um, he chose you to
Right.
do that, just in case it ever came up. Um,
Maybe because I don't even think she knew. Right.
yeah, and so, but
Because they weren't
somebody,
married yet.
yeah, right. So somebody might have said, "Hey, she coerced him,"
Right.
or she had some sort of influence, or she made him do that. But he was telling you he loved her. This was his decision, and he at least told someone, a friend, but a friend that was in a professional capacity of you're in a retirement plan professional, so it's you're about the
Maybe.
the
Maybe.
planning of people's lives,
Sure.
right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I think
Maybe.
that may have had some bearing on that.
Yeah. Maybe. I think you're quite right. I didn't understand that then, but I think you're making some good sense there. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because people.
However, now I think we have to shift gears.
I think so, and talk
Yeah.
about our topic. But I think that was a good
No,
topic.
no, not yet. Not the topic yet, because
Oh,
we've been talking about this from the paternal point of view, from the head that moves the neck that moves the head point of view.
okay, okay,
I don't think that's where we are in our social history, right? I
right.
think at the very least, we're at a crossroads where we're starting to look at each of us, men, women, may I say, bi, transgendered men,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all of us in relationships. And we have to stop looking at situations the way that we used to, where the male in the portion in the situation made more money and made most of the decisions and surprised people with
Mm-hmm.
what was going to happen after they passed away. Um, that's no longer appropriate. I don't think. Maybe I don't think. I don't. It just doesn't work that way. So
Mm.
now we have opportunities to say, okay, we really need to have a discussion as to who's going to do what and who's going to do and how it's going to look. And I can remember, even with the best laid plans like that, where we have those discussions, trains can still go off the rail, right?
They can.
Someone could pass away early, or someone could get an opportunity to go to another country, and then this happens over here. And, there's the family unit is still there, but it's not always in the same place, right? And so lots of things can happen. And I just want to encourage our viewers to, wherever they may be, in whatever kind of relationship that they have, to, well, for lack of a better word, to get the book, right? Get that book that says, this is where the insurance policies are. This is what happens with the house. This is how people get taken care of. This is where the I want to call it a PDA, but that's not what it is. That's me being old. The power of attorneys are the life decisions. This is where it is. And when it comes to making those big decisions, to leave that to one person for you to get a surprise, that is to say, oh, somebody else takes care of that, I don't have to worry about it. That's no longer appropriate. It never was appropriate.
No. And that's a conversation you need to just have, period. And, I tease my sister because I tell her she's always in apocalyptic mode. So always in the apocalyptic mode, but that's cool. That's her personality. So she was going to Aruba. She left for Aruba last night for vacation. So all week she's been rolling around. And so yesterday she's like, okay, so I'm just telling you, I need to make sure that my husband knows that if something happens to me, that, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. I was like, you're going on vacation. What are we having this conversation about? and then I need to make sure, okay, I did this. I wrote a check for my oldest nephew. So I need to let you know it's here and here and here and here. And I need to let you know, here's what a trust is. You're going on 7-day vacation. What's happening here?
It happens, right? You just never know, right?
Yes. So I always tell her she's in apocalyptic mode, but we all know where everything is here in this house. we
there
know,
you go.
But there's a folder with
go.
all of the information because she's always in that mode. But to say that you need to have this conversation, even not when that person gets sick, just have that conversation in general. Sit your family down so everyone understands, because that is, we all have had family members that are falling ill. And usually while you're trying to grieve the loss of the person or the announcement that someone has been diagnosed, whatever, then behind that conversation is, okay, who's going to get the house? Who's going to get this? Who's going to get that? Who's going to get this? Where is this? And then you have all these side conversations and arguments going on, and the person haven't even left the planet. But all of this is going on, as opposed to we've already had this conversation. No matter what that is, this is where this is where the retired, all of this stuff. You like the book. It's all written in the book.
And you and I, we kid about the book, but I have colleagues that have books. They create them and sell them. Like you can call them up, and if anybody wants to get in contact with me to get a book, please do. I don't
actually. I'd like to maybe that might be Christmas presents for the future for next year. So give me that. I like to have that information so we can take it out the folders for my sister and put it in the book. So give me that book so she can just flip us through the book.
Will do. Yeah, I will do, most definitely. And the other interesting part of that, I think I just lost my train of thought. I think the other interesting part of that is the discussion about, let's get right down to it. As Black Americans, we have a history of generational poorness, poverty, generational poverty. And we have the mindset that's the way it is. That's the way it's going to continue to be unless we get lucky.
Yeah.
Someone has a sports thing, or someone becomes a star, or so, or I don't know. But we have that mentality coming into that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that hurts anyone. You don't have to be a Black American. You could be anybody. That hurts anyone having that poverty mentality.
Yes.
So having that discussion of, okay, if we're going to build an empire so that we can have things for that coming generation, what do we need to do right now? Well, I can't do anything. I'm strapped. All right. Okay. So what do we do with our elders? Do we keep them with us? What do we do with that home? Do we sell it and split that money up? What do we do with that jewelry? Do we give that to people and keep it in the family, or do we do something else with it? What do we do as a family, as a group, and what do we do as individuals to either support or not support that? And I think that really has to happen, and it's so tough. I know that. I mean, I haven't talked to my sister in months. We need to have a conversation to say, look, well, we know what's happened to Dad's money. He took it, he went down and bought a house. Actually, I told my father, I said, look, if I could give you the last $200 that you ever need just so you can live, fine, I'm good. I'm educated. I'm doing fine. We're okay.
Right.
But that's not the way a lot of folks feel, right? And I can remember folks saying, you know what? All those people do is squabble over dead people's stuff. And I don't want to be a part of that, right?
Yeah.
I'll let you talk after this. I dated a woman, and I wasn't sure if she was putting up with her parents until they passed away or if she really loved them. Because that child would talk about the jewelry, the houses, the business he was going to collect when those people passed away. And I thought, that's not even in my milieu. I don't even know what that's like. When my parents passed away, when my mother passed away, I was devastated for months. That's all. Right. I mean, if I didn't have a job, thank God I had a job and I had something else to think about, right?
Right.
When my father is gonna passes away, I'm going to be a puddle of water on the floor. I mean, there will be I'll just be in bad shape.
Right, exactly.
I don't even know what he owns.
But it's your father.
Yeah, the man I don't even know what it is. I don't even care. I'm not getting it. I don't even know what it is, right?
Right.
I can remember when he got married the second time, and I said to him, what's the rush? You ain't got no money. What's she looking for? He, of course, said, why are you asking so many questions? This is a lovely person. She's not looking for anything. She's got her own money, right? And I thought, what are you looking for?
Love, son, love. I don't want to be by myself, son. But no, I get what you're saying. But in fact, it was so funny. Some of us are raised, parents are all, right? I mean, God forbid if you lose them when you're young, it's hard enough as you're older. And I remember when my mom passed and my father had passed, and I was like, and I had this conversation with somebody recently that lost the guy that does my nails. He lost his mom a number of years ago, and he lost his father just about a month or so ago. And he was just devastated. And I said, and I had lost my parents, and I was like, oh my God. I said, I know how you feel. Even though I'm an adult taking care of myself, I feel like an orphan. I feel like that my anchor has been pulled out from underneath me. And I know what you're feeling. I said, you got to take it one day at a time, and you will get through this. This too will pass. I know we're not prepared for this. But I remember my girlfriend was taking care of her mother. She was at the hospital with her mother. And this young man was also there with his mother, and he asked her, he says, are you the caregiver? And she goes, no, this is my mother. He says, yeah, I'm here with my mother as well. He says, are you getting paid? And she says, getting paid? He says, are you getting paid to be here at the hospital? And she goes, this is my mother. He says, yeah, this is my mother too, but I'm getting paid for being here. And she went, Okay, I can't even have this conversation with you because I don't even know what you're talking about. What the heck are you talking about? Did she get paid when she was there with you? Because that's really what it is, right? They took care of us. We would not be who we are if they had not a sacrificed what they sacrificed and loved us the way they loved us and cared for us. And trust me, in a family of color, Black family, our parents went through a lot to bring us, to get us here, to get us educated, to get us through college. There was a whole lot of sacrifices, a whole lot of missed meals that they had to make sure that that they provided a better life for us. So of course, in the backside of that is, I feel that's our job, right? To be there for our parents. So to be calculating what they have and what's going to be left to you, that's not even part of, how do you wrap your head around that, right?
But it shows how different cultures react to different things, and I think I don't want to be too pejorative, because this was a lovely person, but that's a part of life as well. I don't have it in my life, right? I am fortunate or unfortunate to be in that situation. I'll put both of those out there. But that's the way she was raised. Her mother was waiting until her mother/father passed away, and things got passed down, right? This idea that we have of controlling things, it's kind of an interesting flip on that. This idea that we have of controlling things from the grave bites us in a lot of ways. And generally, people that I talk to don't have the opportunity to have very much control from the grave. But that's not it all the time, right? And so when we talk about leaving things in trust, and we talk about leaving land, and we talk about the step up and the taxes, and we talk about people losing the farm, and we talk about folks going through all of these kinds of gyrations in order to, quote unquote, leave something for their grandchildren or their children, we have to take that into consideration. And I think depending on what you do now, wherever you are, you can avoid some really serious situations that you're going to put your loved ones in, when it comes to taxes and things they need to do with your belongings. That's number one. And then number two, when it comes to your end of life issues, how are you going to be taken care of? That's another. And like my friend, who wasn't making very much money, but the money that he could make, and this dude, he wasn't even 30 yet. He was thinking, all right, I have this person loves me. I love this person. If we're going to make it happen, and then I need to step up, and this is one of the ways I need to do it. And that's what he did. And he was so happy. And can I say a wee bit forthright, letting me know that that's what was going on. Your point, you can get paid by the state to be a caregiver. And it is important for people to know that is a program out there, as long as, Biden's in the House. I mean, it might be quick. So if you've got some elderly relatives, you may want to look into it right now.
Don't know what's going to happen next time, but
but yeah, you can get money to take care of folks.
Right.
I think the federal government recognizes that is a job.
Oh, it is a job. It's a job.
Families need help with that.
Yeah,
and
it's a big job.
I think it's very similar to the monies that you can get if you have a child that is
yes, like, so it's part of it. Yeah, it's part of that. Yeah, if you have a Social Security pays you to take care of a disabled child, a child that was born with some sort of inherited type of illness. It's just, it's about how we're raised. But I think, most families, and that includes retirement, we don't discuss financials. We don't feel that it should include the children. And it's a uncommon. I think that's part of that financial literacy that we talk about in our community a lot, is not having full disclosures and understanding, all aspects of it. How do we take care of our families? how money should be spent, how money should be saved, the expenditures we have to have, and then how do we take care of ourselves in our as we age, right? And making sure we have the right amount of retirement. I think I mentioned to you, I had a young lady on from the department of, she's the director of Alzheimer's and dementia. And she was saying, and I know you know this number, the number of women that don't have retirement plans, right? But the increase in women that's going to be diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's, and even before they retire, before they even leave their job, they're going that diagnosis is going to come. And what's going to happen, right? Because a lot of people don't have health insurance. So how are they going to be taken care of during that time? And, with Alzheimer's, you could live for 20, 30, 40 years, but devastating costs that are associated with that, with both Alzheimer's and as well as dementia. So how do we do that? Right?
Yeah, it's a very good question, I think. And I think we have to be extremely careful. At least I am, coming from that paternalistic point of view. We have to be very careful that we don't blame the sex for the predicament.
No.
Right? We can't do that. And it's so easy to fall into that, right? And I think that's what happened in the past. We would blame the gender for the disease and what have you, right? Oh, you're a woman, you tried to make it on your own, you got divorced, now look at you. You don't have a man to pay for you. Well, the reality of the situation is we set you up not to have a fair shot. And then we took away your support system, and now we're going to blame the victim for that. That's just not cool. It's just not cool at all. And so we have to be very careful that we don't do that to men and women.
Right.
I mean, there's, the same thing happens to men that happens to women in very similar ways. And the end game, I guess, is the result can be just as devastating. And so we have to be really, really careful about that. And I think, and I guess I've said it before, even on this show, that love looks different now. I think, not only do we have tools that we didn't know about 10 or 15 years ago with regard to end of life decisions and insurance and, stepping things up, reducing tax liability. Not only do we have those tools, but they've changed on us. They've gotten to be more specific about different things. So you've got to, as a person who's in a family, you got to get constant information. You can't just get the book, write things down, and set that aside and not deal with it. This is a part of your family life. I'm not suggesting that you be apocalyptic, but you go on vacation, but somewhere along the line, that discussion needed to be had, right?
Well, I think you have to have that. I do think you have to have, the conversation has to be had more than every 10, 20 years, or or only time it comes up is when you have it at a funeral. Oh yeah, we better have that conversation.
Exactly.
No, right? No, unless you're attending a funeral every year.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, family member that, it's like you always say, oh, we can't just get together when there's a funeral. The same thing. You have to have this conversation on a regular basis. So you be prepared. And I am a firm believer. It's like marketing. You have to be repetitious. You got to have this conversation on a regular basis so that it stays resident in the front part of the frontal lobe, not resident on the backside.
How's it we used to say in the church thing? A frontlet between your eyes.
You're right, a frontlet right here. So you can have that conversation. And I guess Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, so but you got, yeah, we gotta, these are, but see, these are the conversations, Jevon, that we're just not prepared for, right? In the life, retirement life. We talk about retirement in a like a Disneyland fairy tale. Like it's at the end of the rainbow. We're gonna go to work, and somewhere down the line, down there in the at the end of the rainbow, there's retirement. And it looks so rosy. We're not gonna have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, get dressed, and go out somewhere. But there's a whole lot of stuff that goes along to when you get to that end of the rainbow. It might not be the Disneyland that you think it's going to be.
Also, it'll be Disneyland. It just may not be the Disneyland that you think it is. But Disneyland gonna be there.
Right, Disneyland. It may be the Santas and Disneyland drama going on right now. if you don't sit down and have some conversation.
Very well said. Well said. Well, with that, that's a great segue into our article that we were going to review today. But it's already 1:58. So I would suggest that we save this till next time.
I think so, but this was organic. I like the organic conversations.
It was definitely. Well, I certainly appreciate learning more about the way that you look at the world. And I bet I can find you a husband to step up and
go ahead and find it. You can go find it. Here's something that this morning, just before I came on air, I was there was a tweet. Terry McMillan, the author.
Yes.
Okay, so Terry McMillan, she tweeted just a few minutes ago, a little while ago. She says her son said, "Hey, Mom, I'm running to Target. Is there anything you need?" She go, "Yeah, baby. Can you see if there's a husband on the houseware aisle?"
Indeed. Yeah. We definitely have some things to talk about there, young lady. Definitely with regard to how these relationships are supposed to go. They're changing on us. They're changing.
They are changing on us. The world has changed, but yeah, the world has changed. That was my experience. My mother used to say that, and my mother was a really much more alpha woman. I'm alpha, but my mom was really alpha because she had to be. So, but I remember years and years ago, guy I was dating, he came over and he offered to put together a bookcase for me. And so my mom gave me a look. And so I said, "Sure, yeah, baby, go ahead and put together the bookcase." Now, me and my mom had put together all kinds of stuff, but so he's putting the bookcase together, and so when he left, it was all rickety. It was like moving. So during the time when he was putting together, he was so proud of what he was doing. So my mother and I could communicate without words. So she would pop her head in and she just give me the look. And I just like, the look was just a compliment, baby, just compliment. And so, and behind the look, it was like, when he leaves, we'll take care of it. But just compliment and smile.
Again, I say to you that neck moving the head, having that head out there as just a figurehead, they know. That doesn't mean that's not an important role to play, though.
Oh, no, right. So after it was all over, the bookcase was up. And I was oh, thank you so much. I'm so appreciative, so appreciate. He got out the door, drove away. And my mother said, "Go get the glue and the screwdriver. And let's put the bookcase together the way it's supposed to put, so it actually can hold the books." and the wood glue is up underneath the cabinet. Go get the wood glue.
Sometimes it bees like that. You got to do what you got to do.
He never knew we unbuilt the bookcase and rebuilt the bookcase. I told him, he's like, "How's the bookcase?" "Oh, it is wonderful, baby. It is like I put all my books in there. It is absolutely wonderful. I will treasure this bookcase for life."
Nice.
So, but heck, my girlfriend's mother told me a long time ago, she and her husband were married for 50 years. She goes, and I said, how did you stay married? She goes, I'm the head, I'm the neck that turns the head. And I will never forget that.
There you
so
go.
You're right.
There you go. There you go. All righty, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us. Should I read your bio real quick and then we can go, because we're about to run over, and you know they don't play.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Right, here we go. Okay, so everyone, please allow me to say so long to my good friend Crystal Mitchell until next week. So not a so long, I guess. Crystal is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions. She's the co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, a co-host of The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, another weekly online radio show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. I hope you don't mind me reading your bio. I never get tired of doing that.
Oh, well, thank you.
So give us the last word, ma'am.
So, guys, this was a great conversation because it just kind of flowed on its own. So we just kind of talked about the fact that, you know, life has changed, roles have changed, but conversations that need to be had within families must be had. So the book is very, very important, and it's very important that we sit down throughout periodically through the family, more often than not. And let's have those conversations before we really need to have those conversations. So not when you're grieving, when it's hard to make those decisions, but when you can think more rationally about what the afterlife means for you and your loved ones. So that we just preparing. Repetition is a good thing.
Right. Well said. Thank you so much, Crystal. Always a pleasure. And we will see all of you next week. Same time, same channel.
All right. So you guys have a great week.
All right. Bye-bye now.